Alright, this is John Kohler with growingyourgreens.com. Today with another exciting episode for you. I'm still here outside Jacksonville, Florida, and today I'm visiting a 5-acre, basically I'll call it a permaculture farm. We'll call it Stilwell Farms. Basically it's a family, mostly the wife, who is basically doing permaculture on 5 acres, which formerly had, I think, had like 5 trees on it and otherwise was flattened. They bought it right before the pandemic, I think August 2019, and have been here for about 6 years and planting out different areas over all this time. So I guess before it gets too dark, I probably got maybe a half hour or less of light left. I want to take you guys around some of the coolest things that I saw and learned here today and share what they're learning here as well. So let's head inside. All right, so we are here in a zone 9A, which is actually similar to the zone I'm in, and it's very interesting to see the plants that she can grow here versus the ones that I grow in my zone 9A. Some of the things are similar, some are different, but our experiences with some of the plants are a little bit different. So for example, I mean, she has like bananas. I would never even try to grow bananas in my zone 9A. And then she has some cassava here. This is a cassava I don't have yet. It's very pretty. It's a variegated cassava. And she's grown cassava that like is super long like this. She says it takes like 10 months. It'll die back over the winter time and then come back up. When I tried to grow cassava over the summertime, it like really never made roots in my zone 9A. So actually I grow it in my Puerto Rico farm, which then it just easily grows. And then this time of year, we're in October, so she's kind of getting out of the summer season. She's still got some pumpkin vines. I think she harvested her pumpkin. She's got some Everglades tomatoes still going, a few peppers still going, but like it's almost like in between seasons. So she's not yet planted for her winter garden yet, and a lot of things she's growing, like the tropical spinaches, she grows like as annuals in the summertime. Okay. So I want to take you guys around and show you guys probably a crop that I saw here that's doing pretty good that I really can't grow in my zone 9A. All right, so this is her Katuk plant that's doing pretty good. I guess it probably she has to cover it in the winter time, but she says it comes back every year, and it looks like it's pretty girthy here at the bottom. So it's been living here a while. That's really nice. And she has like probably some Seminole pumpkins in front, and then this is like the insulin ginger, I believe, and bananas behind. And then she showed me her Okinawan spinach that's sitting over there that she says likes lots of water, whereas a friend of mine that I got mine from says Okinawan spinach doesn't like a lot of water, but her plants are looking you know, quite good as well. She says her Okinawan spinach is a bit more cold tolerant than her longevity spinach, which is interesting. So behind me she's got the bitter melons that she grows up this like literally a string trellis. It looks like they homemade it. And then a little tomato cage, a Texas tomato cage actually. And she grows a lot of interesting and different things here. So the focus is to grow things that'll grow in this area. So she doesn't like grow lettuce in the ground, it gets attacked by bugs, but however she does grow it like in under hydroponics, so she can actually have lettuce. But mainly she's growing a lot of the different, you know, more tropical crops that most people that would live here and go to Publix or Winn-Dixie, you know, they would never be able to find some of these things like the moringa in the grocery store. So I think before it gets dark, I want to show you guys a few areas. So she's tried like doing different styles of planting, like in like grocery store rows, like standard, more traditional permaculture. Then she's tried like the big grow circles, and she definitely likes the circles more than just like the rows. So let me show you guys both areas. All right, so you guys can see this is a big one of the circles she's making. So she likes to develop a big area. She gets free wood chips or pays tree chipper guys or arborists like 20 bucks to drop off a big pile for her. The biggest challenge she has is getting it all wheelbarrowed out and then, you know, re-chipping different places because the chips break down so fast here in Florida. So she likes this technique where she'll just develop a whole area and plant a whole bunch of things like the main trees, and then over the years, like next year, as this breaks down, then she'll start planting in, you know, like just regular standard crops. So I'll show you the area over there that she has grown over a year, and then she starts expanding it out and then making it bigger and bigger. so that hopefully one day she'll have like most of this covered in mulch and then planted out, whereas right now we still have lots of grass that has to get mowed every so often. All right, so you guys can see over in this area, this is like, she expanded out, and then now after a year, because we have all the behind the overstory crops, we have the understory crops kind of getting planted out, the dill and different kind of herbs down below in front. So she'll just keep moving this out and taking up more space. So this is the way she prefers, and then the way that she started with was like the grocery store aisles, which I'll show you guys over there, that don't look as well managed and also look to have a lot more weeds and weed pressures. All right, guys, so over here you can see she basically just has the grocery store aisle style she learned from David the Good, which actually she doesn't like a lot because she's got a lot of weed encroachment, and then there's also, like, in my opinion, very large rows in between. So if it was me, I'd kind of like, basically instead of having these rows, I'd expand the rows out and kind of make them more like big circles or balloons out. But she's got a lot of Mexican sunflower that she uses for chop and drop. Like, that's what it mostly is. I see Mexican sunflower, some cassava, and then other random fruit trees in between. And then, you know, as we go further back over here, she has larger fruit trees like persimmons. I saw like loquats. I know she has fajoas and some other fruit trees. And then lots of the Mexican sunflower that she chops and drops down. But yeah, she's got lots of sugarcane that she's just kind of using as a windbreak currently, and one day I'm sure she'll hopefully harvest it and make a lot of sugarcane juice with her kids. All right, so this is just another example of the style of gardening that she likes better, just basically mulching the whole area and then basically planting all the large overstory crops, and then over time she'll smother out the grass, and then maybe next year she'll start planting out the smaller herbs and whatnot down below. So I think, you know, once again, I think the main thing is she's using a lot more mulch, and then the main thing is keeping these areas like all mulched up. She has a lot of mulch, but the issue is getting the mulch moved from the back of the property where the trucks dump it to the front of the property where it needs to go. Because she showed me areas like, oh, we did this area, but then, you know, it hasn't gotten remulched. Then basically the grass comes back, and then it just kind of gets unruly again. So there's like a lot of maintenance, and she has herself and her 2 kids and the husband that works a lot, that probably doesn't do a whole lot here on the homestead. So she's just trying to keep it all together and keep developing new areas, and then trying to jump back to old areas and kind of maintain them the best she can. But the good news is, you know, many of the plants that she plants, especially like some of the fruit trees, she plants once. And the other thing is she doesn't irrigate anything here. I mean, maybe at the beginning she might irrigate it a little bit, and then the raised bed she might irrigate, but everything else is like, if the soil does not hold enough water, the plant does not survive with the water it gets from just the rain, then, you know, the plant moves on, and then she gets something that can handle this climate. So it's very important for her to grow things that are, you know, pretty much climate appropriate. So this area behind me is actually a very important area that I want to point out to you guys, and especially if you guys have a lot of acres that you can't deal with it all, it'd be good to plant something like this. Basically, when they bought the property, it had like 5 trees and was basically all flattened out, and like just probably dirt, not even a lot of grass, not much was growing here. And then this area used to be a swamp. You would go in there and you'd step in, and the ground would compress, and you'd have like, you know, water up to that much on your leg. So what they did was they got a native plant guy to kind of come in and then find the native plants that would have naturally grown here in this location, and then reseeded this whole area, including different pines and all kinds of other native plants in this area. And then basically they seeded it all, and it's been growing for several years now. They actually also, you know, trim pathways in there, so like you could camp, like friends and family could camp in there and kind of have some privacy. But basically now, instead of being a swamp, because it used to be just basically dirt and sand, now the roots have grown down in there, and there's more organic matter. Now it's not a swampy anymore, and it's actually now sustaining life and basically grows on its own. So pretty much this whole area they kind of keep as like the natural forest style area that would be native to this area, like before things got basically clear cut to, you know, build a house on. So that's kind of cool. And also, you know, of course this area can attract pollinators, you know, have a space for, you know, beneficial insects to come, and to create a habitat for other creatures that live on the planet with us. All right, guys, so the showstopper for me for this whole property, in my opinion, are these guys right here. I mean, you guys could see, you can't probably see it in the video, but basically they're just all these little white, they look like little balls, but they're really not balls at all. These are actually the calyxes from the white roselle. And that's crazy. This thing is just loaded. I've never seen a roselle plant that is just this massive or this overgrown with all the white roselle. And normally the roselle is the purple color, which is rich in anthocyanins. That's what makes it so healthy. And we could of course open this up and you guys could see the little pod on the inside, but normally they could use the outside petals, which you could eat. Wow. And it's like a sour candy. It's actually good. But she made jam out of this stuff recently. And so like it said roselle jam, I look at it and I'm like, wait, how come this roselle jam is like white? It's not like red. She's like, oh, I got the white roselle. And it's like, she's like, it does really good. And I'm like, I came outside and like, I couldn't believe how well this did. In addition, of course, she has things like the Egyptian spinach, which is pretty much done leafing out. But you could see it's basically got all the seed pods, some of which are still pretty soft, actually. Maybe you could eat them. Oh, this one's young. So when this Egyptian spinach seed pods are young, you could eat it like okra. Tastes good. It's fun that hers are still soft because the ones I'm growing in Las Vegas are quite hard right now and they're pretty much done for the season. Of course, another crop that's doing great is the basil. I know she has some holy basil that I tasted earlier, but to me this purple basil is even more impressive. Looks like she could be harvesting this back so much more. And purple basil is one of my favorites, of course, because it is purple. I want to encourage you guys to grow more purple plants. Those anthocyanin compounds or the purple compounds really can help out our health a lot. So while her white roselle doesn't have it, her purple basil definitely does. I love the flavor. Nice strong basil. Purple basil grows great here. Alright guys, so this is probably the last shot I'm able to get in before it gets too dark here. I want to share with you guys some of the livestock that she has here. So she has some bunnies, and besides the bunnies, she also has some pigs, actually ducks, geese, miniature cow. Did I say pigs? Yeah, I think I said pigs. And then she has like 6 cats and dog and yeah, all kinds of different animals here. And here on the farm, all the animals are for pets, not for livestock. So yeah, that's very important to her, because when she looks into the animal's eyes, like she knows it's like a living, like breathing, like person, like it's a like living being, and it's really hard for her to, you know, see it as like food, which I highly respect. And so, you know, some of the animals also, like they have like a chicken tractor which they move, they need to rebuild it. Also they have like they had a rabbit tractor that they would move around too for the rabbits. The pigs also do work to do aeration of the soil, and also the cow actually will keep an area mowed down. The baby cow, the miniature cow will keep an area mowed down. So like all the animals like have their role, plus also the most important thing is to have the animals for the kids exposure. I mean, most people that have kids that want to see like farm animals have to like go to the petting zoo or go to a farm, right? She could like literally take her kids outdoors to visit the rabbits, to visit the miniature cow, to visit the pigs, visit the geese or the ducks or the chickens, right? So it's like basically like a homestead. And I mean, that's one of the main reasons why the homestead is here, you know, so that the kids could come outside and get familiar with what grows here and the food that grows here naturally, you know, which is unlike standard American children that are going to school in this area. Like all the kids don't know what's grown here. They eat whatever comes out of the grocery store, and that's what they think food is, when like, you know, people, she tries to give away some of the food she grows here in herbs, and people like don't take it because they don't know what it is or even know how to use it. So I think there's a big, huge mission and educational component that she could do here if she wanted to educate the public, the local people, you know, maybe like the, you know, school groups, kids, friends, and family and whatnot about, you know, the food that grows here, because she's doing an amazing job, although it does look like she, you know, definitely needs more help, because she's like a pretty much one-woman show trying to take care of like 5 acres, which, you know, she could probably use a lot more string trimming and a lot more weeding and a lot more mulch moving, and we could always use more planting. So anyways, I'll have to say bye to the rabbits for now. Bye-bye, rabbits. And we're going to go inside and interview Rachel, the person that makes most of this happen. All right, guys, so now I have the pleasure of introducing you guys to Rachel Stillwell of Stilwell Farm and Diablo, who's on my lap and won't leave now. And we're just going to go ahead and ask her some questions about the farm here. So Rachel, why did you decide to start planting and growing food here on your 5 acres? Because literally when you bought this, it was like just leveled out with, I think, what, 4 trees or something?
Yeah, I had about 5 trees on our farm when we first started. So I suffered from chronic issues, health issues throughout my early 20s. And I knew just in general that I wanted a healthier lifestyle for me, for my family, to be able to heal. One of our inspirations that we ended up watching shortly before we started looking for property was The Biggest Little Farm. And we knew, you know, obviously watching that it was going to be a lot of work, but we didn't know how much until we bought it. But yeah, so we basically, for the purpose of our children, of our immediate surroundings, our immediate community and family, we wanted to be able to have a place where we could grow things organically and we could focus on health as far as for our family and for our community.
Wonderful. And what style gardening do you do? Because I know you have an area for raised beds, you have an area of like kind of native stuff, you have like different permaculture things, and then you just have things planted random places, and I don't know, a mixture of things, I would say.
Yeah. So I love experimenting. I've always loved experimenting ever since I was a kid. I love learning how things work. And I had zero experience with gardening, having grown up in Las Vegas. And so I started my first garden at our old house with some raised beds made out of wood pallets and some potted plants. And then when we decided to get the farm, our first thing was to get some raised beds going, because I thought that would be the most effective way to raise our food in a healthy manner. And so I was 20 weeks pregnant with my first son in October of 2019. We bought our property and we used men in overalls from Jacksonville to do our raised bed installation, and it was a huge blessing. I still have those raised beds out there, and that's still one of the ways that I really like to grow things. But I've also grown into doing guilds and doing grocery row gardening and just anything that and hydroponics. So basically any way that I can grow anything is how I'll grow it. Because, you know, at the end of the day, like, the goal is to have good, healthy food for us, whether it's grown hydroponically, grocery row gardening, guilds, or raised beds.
So we're here outside Jacksonville, Florida in a zone 9A. So tell us, Rachel, what are the most successful crops that you're able to harvest like year round here?
So definitely my go-tos are going to be cassava. Cassava has done really, really well, and it produces a ton of mass. And then also doing any of the heat-tolerant spinach, longevity spinach, Okinawa spinach, Manihot, hibiscus, and hibiscus family especially. And a lot of the hibiscus family, roselle hibiscus, cranberry hibiscus, those have been really good growers as well. So usually the spinach and the roselle and the hibiscus family has been really, really successful out here.
So those would do good really like mostly in the summertime. And then what winter crops have done really well for you?
So I've actually had some really good luck with some of the broccoli family, and then I had some huge heads of cauliflower actually out here. I've also done romaine, different types of lettuce. I have found, at least for me, that I've had more success growing them hydroponically. just as far as pests and diseases out here. But I do know that some people do them in the ground quite successfully. But at least for me, the easiest to grow has been hydroponic.
And then, well, what fruit trees have performed really well for you?
Oh my gosh, so persimmons for sure. Persimmons have been just a massive amount. And then I've done okay with blueberries, but my blueberries are still pretty young. Trying to think fruit tree. Oh, and then our banana trees. So we have bananas for the first time this year, and I had 4 big, pretty decent sized racks of bananas. So I feel like those will definitely be something that I'll focus on doing. And mulberries. Mulberries are a huge fruit crop out here. And if you get the ever-bearing mulberry variety, we'll get those like twice a year. Although in the spring we definitely get a lot more. And so those, I mean, I do jams, I do them fresh, I do all kinds of stuff with the mulberries during mulberry season. So yeah, those are probably the 3 best trees that have the least amount of input for the most amount of reward. I've had other fruit trees that have gotten fruit on them, but either they, I struggled with pests and diseases, or they were just very nutrient heavy, and just, got, like our apple trees got, I can't remember the name of it, but our apple trees had a hard time, and our peach trees had a really hard time. But the persimmons also grow here naturally, so that's been really good.
And your pineapple guavas, do those do good, or they're just too young?
Yes, so those ones are too young, but my neighbors down the way, they have pretty several-year-old trees, and they gave us probably 15 pounds worth of fruit. And so that was really nice. The boys really loved those fresh, and I tried making different pastries and stuff with those as well. So those are really cool. So I can't wait for ours. Ours get the flowers on them, which we'll actually eat the flowers as soon as my kids see the flower. And maybe you would have gotten fruit by now. I don't know.
Well, eat the petals and don't pull out the whole flower.
Yeah. The kids kind of just, run by and grab them and eat them. Oh, and figs. Figs are
figs.
Yes, figs are really, really good out here. So we have 5 different fig trees out here. And so the figs have been very prolific as well.
Wow, yeah, so it's interesting to hear all the different fruit trees that do good for you in your zone 9A, because I could agree with all those would do good for me, except for the bananas, actually, which they would just get too cold and I wouldn't be able to keep it alive.
Yeah.
In the wintertime.
I definitely have to heavy mulch.
Yeah,
I do. I heavy mulch around the banana trees. And I think that particular circle right by the big oak tree, I think they get
a little bit warmer.
Yeah,
because they have an overstory.
Yeah, because if you look at the grocery row garden ones, like I have some bananas over there, and they got decent sized last year, but I've never actually had the banana flower to where it actually came down and produced bananas. So I think it's because they're in that row and they're not protected. I think that the oak tree was definitely a big reason that we actually got bananas this year.
So I see that you have a lot of Mexican sunflower, like basically planted everywhere. Some of it, I mean, you could say maybe you chop and drop it, but to me some of it looks like so tall and fairly impressive, because I've never seen it that tall, because people normally chop and drop it, fairly soon. So why did you plant so much, and why is some of it not chopped and dropped maybe as it should be?
So, multi-parts. So I planted it everywhere originally, one, to help build the soil, to act as windbreaks, and just frankly to get a little bit of privacy, because it does grow so quickly. So we were able to grow that for multiple reasons, and I love the flowers. So I do quite a bit of chop and drop, and they grow very quickly, at least where we are. And so I'll chop and drop, a couple times during the season, and I try not to take over a certain percentage of the plant when I do that. And then some of them I just haven't pruned back because, I think, as he may have explained in the video, I do a lot of the work myself, and, when we have friends help us and stuff like that. But a lot of the times, if you see the super, super tall ones, they are because that area is the last to be worked. So then I get to enjoy more of the sunflowers in that case. And that's one of the beautiful things of just kind of letting nature And plants just do their thing sometimes. You know, it might look a little scraggly, it might look a little crazy, but man, those pollinators love it.
Yeah, it's really cool for me to see that because I've never seen them that big before. So you must be doing something right.
Yeah, yeah.
And they are pretty when they're that tall.
They are, and then, you know, and then like you get hundreds of sunflowers out here, which is just really pretty. I mean, I'll sit out there and just watch them when I'll have my coffee in the morning and sit out there and look at the pretty sunflowers, and it really makes me happy. And that's definitely a joy factor of gardening is, you know, watching something like that, and you just get to sit back and enjoy it.
So beside being a plant parent, you are actually a real parent and have two little ones that I've, you know, got to interact with all day today, pretty much.
Yeah.
And so how do you get them involved with the gardening and growing food and teaching them? And so, you know, what kind of curriculum, or I don't know, how do you get them involved so that they learn about where food comes from? Because unfortunately, I mean, most kids, your kids' ages, would not have this experience, unfortunately.
Yeah. So pretty much like I will do what I'm doing, and any questions that they ask me, I'll answer as honestly and as simplified as I can. And then, you know, like, especially if they're showing interest, I'll say, do you want to help me? And, you know, and I'll get them involved with helping me as much as they want to. Again, like, for me personally, like, I'm not looking to make this a super productive farm. I have that luxury, and I'm very grateful. So I don't have to feel that force of like needing them to help with a family farm. So I am able to recruit them and really engage them just out of a place of like love and being able to let them help if they want to, and let them go play and be outside if they want to just go and play outside, which is another thing that I really promote, and I really love being able to share our property with people. Because I know so many children don't have the opportunity to just kind of like run freely in a green space. And so, I feel like even if they're not helping me in the garden, they're still learning by proxy because they're watching me do these things. And so they may not hear the words I'm saying, but they see the actions that I'm doing. And, as they say, actions speak louder than words often. And so I try to use my words sparingly as far as like talking to them about why I'm doing what I'm doing, and I kind of just do it. And if they have a question, then I talk to them about it.
So what would you say to other parents that are out there watching this that have not yet gotten their kids involved with their garden? Because I know a lot of my viewers garden, and then a lot of them have kids and they just let their kids do their own thing.
Yeah.
So how would you get, if your kids were not involved with you sometimes when they are, what would you say to parents out there so that they could maybe get their kids involved? Because I believe it's very important to get kids out in nature and disconnected from the screens.
Yes.
Which, so we could do this interview, the kids are watching the screen right now, but.
Yeah, sometimes you gotta, and that's the thing that I've struggled with is like how to utilize technology appropriately, right? So I don't want to be outside gardening while they're inside watching TV. Like, that's not my goal. And if that was what I was doing, and there have been points, like I admittedly as a parent, where like I feel like I've slipped because I had other things that I was prioritizing. So I was like, oh my gosh, I got to get this done. Like, maybe I'll just put a show on for them for a little while, and I'll just knock it out really quick. And then I'll catch myself, and I'm like, this is not why I started this farm. This is not why I chose this lifestyle. I chose this lifestyle because I wanted it for the health of my family. So if I'm doing that, it's counterintuitive, right? So I still have to check myself sometimes with that. But primarily, yes, they do help me, and they do go outside at the very minimum. And so some ways that I've engaged them with like doing the actual chores is like, especially if it's something new, I try to utilize the newness of any factor, whether it's like a new season. Okay, you want to help mommy pick out, what plants and what seeds to do where. You want to watch a video with me on, a certain type of gardening or whatever. And then, I kind of follow their lead on what they are actually interested in, and I make sure to make time for that. Sometimes if they've finished with wanting to help me, then I'll set up something really quick, like right next to me. So, yesterday or day before, they were done helping me, and I was just moving some of the guild out a little bit more and planting seeds, and they had helped me as much as they wanted to. And so I just brought out an old baking sheet, a little dinosaur, and then we took some of the chop and drop Mexican sunflower, and they started making a fort and like shoving the sticks in the sand. So yes, they are in that moment. They are not gardening, but they are out in the sun. They're feeling different textures with their hands. They're engaging with nature. They're still seeing butterflies going around or the cats or whatever. And just, if you can't get them involved right away, maybe just introduce doing something outside that's next to you, is how I would start to get kids who aren't used to being outside a lot involved, is just find something, as simple as doing like water, like chalk or something on the sidewalk next to you, or whatever you can find, to just have your kid next to you, I think is the first step. And then when they ask questions, just encouraging them, and remembering that your kids are the focus and not your task.
I'm gonna have problems with that when I have kids finally. That my kids are the focus, and that it's not my task.
Like I said, I still struggle with that. I still struggle with it, and obviously I am speaking of a place from where I'm very blessed with the fact that I'm not doing this for a living. So it's not to shame or guilt the parents that like they have to get stuff done so they have their kids somewhere else, because I would never want that. But if you have the capacity to have your child with you, and just to remind yourself that they are the most important work, then that's kind of what brings me back, at the end is that I'm doing all this for them. So if I'm short with them, or if I'm like, oh, just go do something else, like, then I'm neglecting the very thing that I started this for.
So another reason why you're growing all the food, of course, is so that you, your family, your children could eat healthier. So how do you incorporate the food that you're growing here into family meals?
So that's been a fun one to figure out. So as I was telling John earlier, so one of the things that we grow is moringa. And I've tried feeding it to the kids in various ways, but the best way that I've found is to dehydrate it, crush it up into a powder, and then I add it to peanut butter or something that has a more pungent taste to it than the actual moringa will. So just finding ways like that. But also, like the other day, I made eggs with some Katuk cut up in it, and onion, and some beans. And so it's just kind of like putting little bits in food that that they're already comfortable with.
So do you ever make like a meal based around the food you're growing versus using the items you're growing as an ingredient supplementally in the food?
Right. Yes. So one season we had, I believe it's called zucca gourd. It's a family close to like squash, like yellow squash and all that. Zucchini and yellow squash. So anyway, we had a prolific amount of it growing. And I think I made like zucchini lasagna, zucchini soup, like everything zucchini, zucchini bread. Pretty much anything that I could make from the zucchini, I made from the zucchini, cut it up on salads for my husband. It was just, so yes, I will do that, quite a bit. I have found it a little bit harder with the kids. But that was definitely one that sticks out in my head. And a lot of broccoli. We've done a lot of broccoli dishes for sure.
Yeah, so I'd say what would be, because like a lot of kids, unfortunately, get used to eating the regular food that the other kids at school are eating, or that normal, their maybe kids' friends would be eating, like just all the highly processed, ultra processed foods, and then they get a taste for that. So then how do you kind of bring them back to eat things that aren't even native to the grocery store here? Because you can't go to Winn-Dixie or Publix and buy moringa leaves. They have lettuce that's imported from somewhere else or grown in a greenhouse, and they don't have all the different Egyptian spinaches, or the longevity spinach, or the Okinawan spinach, and nobody knows what they are. And like, how do you get them to eat more of these foods when it's so new to them?
So again, just kind of incorporating or replacing, you know, so like my kids have had chips, you know, so a way that I try to do that in a little bit healthier way is doing banana chips. So it's still chips, but I think if you replace little by little, or if you add things, you know, like supplementally, like I'm doing, it at least helps to bridge the gap. You know, I really do wish that my kids were strictly on stuff from the farm. And it's something that I've often struggled with, like, as, you know, the parent guilt and everything. But I do know, and I can say with my whole heart that you know, I think the best way, if you have exposed your child to processed foods and such, is to cut back on those as much as you can, replace them with things that are even a little bit healthier, and then you kind of just chip away slowly. Because it's a hard band, especially with kids, I feel like, to rip off, because those processed foods are so addictive.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have kids yet, so I'm not one to talk, but I think for me it'd be very important to have my kids involved in growing things.
Yes.
And seeing the process, and then actually, you know, part of the process is harvesting and then eating it, like literally right out of the garden, so that they could feel like a part that they've done it. It's not just like mommy's doing it and I'm helping, but like they did the whole process, and now they're involved, so that, you know, they're gonna want to taste it, eat it, and then they're likely, I would hope, want to, you know, and they're gonna enjoy it more.
Yeah, yeah. So like, you know, so Mama. Mason's getting to the age.
Mama,
come here.
I want to try another movie.
Okay, just a minute. This is Bo. He's 3. And this is my little peanut butter king. So Mason's getting to the point where he likes to help. So now I have him doing roselle. And he will sit there and he will just eat roselle. He'll pop open the calyxes and just eat it raw. And that's a big thing too, I think, is you know, when you're gardening with your kids, just letting them try the different things and see what they like. Bo will eat beauty berries straight off the bush. You know, they don't really have a flavor, but it's still got the purple pigment. It's still good for you, and he'll still eat it.
All right, Rachel, another question I have for you is regarding, like, I know it's very important for you to, like, teach others, you know, and share what you've learned with others. So how do you envision doing this in the future? Because I know you're not yet doing it yet, and we've talked about it. Maybe I've tried to encourage you a little bit.
I definitely feel very encouraged. I really have a heart for people, you know, who are not used to eating healthy or eating, you know, raw, natural foods. And I, you know, like I mentioned a couple of times in the video, like I'm not a perfect parent. I'm not a perfect eater myself. But I'm doing the best I can to move forward in that direction. And that's something that I spoke with John about, was like, you know, I feel that imposter syndrome of like, I'm not there yet. I'm not perfect, you know? And, so I want to share my journey of learning, of doing, and that is exactly what I envision for the future, is just sharing my journey with my children, with my farm, with the growth of everything, and sharing recipes that I've tried that my kids like, that I like. I struggle a lot with textures and smells and stuff like that. So it'll definitely be something where I'm going to share what worked for me and even what didn't, and the reality of trying to live a healthy lifestyle in this day and age with the background that I have. So Stilwell Farm, Stilwell_farm is my Instagram, and I made a Facebook page, which I'll probably revitalize at some point, and once I start a YouTube channel, I will put my information on the Instagram page to follow our journey.
All right, great. All right, so I think that's it for today. I got to get running because I got another half-hour drive and a whole bunch more stuff to do tonight. But thank you, Rachel, for having me out today. I love visiting your farm and hanging out with you. And we got to walk around before I made the video, and I didn't get a lot of time to make a video today, but your place is looking great. I could see it needs a lot more work. And you know, I could only envision in the future it's going to look a lot better, because I mean the whole thing is once you get more systems in place and things grow more naturally and almost like, I don't want to say self-prune, but once you get things in place, you know, things are going to like more take care of themselves.
Yes.
Once the weeds are down and all these things are happening.
Exactly.
So yeah, I look forward to my next visit one of these years when it's looking more lush and bountiful.
Oh yeah, yeah. I'm excited because we've had about 6 years now in between. So if you're interested, I will link the pictures of our drone footage of our home when we first bought it, and with those 5 trees on it and the grass dying. And then I also have drone footage of about a year or two ago, and you can just see the difference even between those years. And then I'll hopefully be able to upload one more just so you can see the progression of the years.
So that's it for today at Stilwell Farms. Hope you guys enjoyed this episode with Rachel and Bo eating his pistachios. And if you guys did and want more videos here with me in the future, please be sure to give this video a big thumbs up. Also, more importantly, share this with other moms out there that, you know, live at home, that want to start growing food, you know, that live in a zone 9A. They could learn a lot from following Rachel. All her links down below for social media are below if you want to check her out and learn more. And I hope to learn more from you in the future, and will follow you, so I want to see your content in the future. I'll be looking for it. Okay? So if you guys enjoyed this episode, also be sure to click that subscribe button right down below so you don't miss any of my new and upcoming episodes I come out every 5-7 days. I wouldn't want you to miss any single episode. So click the little bell so you get notified as my new videos come out. And finally, be sure to check for past episodes. Past episodes are a wealth of knowledge. Over 1,700 episodes at this time on this channel dedicated to teach you guys all about how to grow your own food at home. So with that, my name is John Kohler with growingyourgreens.com. We'll see you next time. And until then, remember, keep on growing.